Well, joining me now from Kiev is Sergiy Tsivkach. He's Executive Director at UkraineInvest. Sergiy, welcome to you. Now, you promote inward investment into Ukraine. What have flows of FDI been like in recent years?
Thank you very much for the invitation to talk. I would like to greet all audience in UK and throughout the world. I can tell you that last year it was a breakthrough for Ukraine in terms of record-breaking FDI inflows into Ukraine and the record-breaking GDP growth in Ukraine. So this situation now in Ukraine and possible aggression of Russia and what is happening now from our northern neighbor, it's a very dangerous thing, not only in military terms, but in economic terms. And Ukraine is doing its best to remain resilient to all these challenges and to support our economy. Just yesterday, President Zelensky announced a new plan to support businesses in Ukraine and investors in Ukraine. So we may see decrease of taxes on fuel, energy, and so on. So Ukraine is acting very responsive in these times. Also, government of Ukraine responded with a special fund to support air companies that needs insurance in these times, and amount of 16.6 billion hryvnias was allocated by the Ministry of Economics and Ministry of Infrastructure. So it's a very quick response, and we do not see any change of plans, mid-terms or long-term plans of investors, even though this aggression as of today costs us money.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, what do you think the hit to GDP is going to be, given current circumstances, leaving for one side the risk of a full invasion by Russia?
It is very hard to say now. There is a possible slowdown of GDP growth, but it will depend on Ukraine, how we respond to that. And as I said, we respond quite well and quickly. And also it will depend on international society, international business society and international partners. We all remember that after the Second World War in 1947, so-called Marshall Plan, initiated by George Marshall, State Secretary of the United States back then, he initiated plans for European recovery. And back then, $13 billion were given to European countries in order to rebuild. In current value, this is about $150 billion. Recently, Greece was supported by Europe as well and received about $300 billion to recover the economy. So Ukraine will definitely need internal funds and external funds in order to make our country stronger, more resilient in terms of economy, and this will also lead to stronger military position and our ability to stabilize the region and the global world.
From what you're saying, though, Sergiy, I mean, that involves getting closer to the West, exactly the kind of behaviour that has so antagonised Vladimir Putin.
It is, and we can see that indeed a false flag operation is being, initiated right now by Russian Federation. I do not believe that the task of President Putin was to recognize independence of those poor occupied territories of Ukraine, poor because of the Russian propaganda, poor because they were disconnected from central Ukraine, and poor because they're still affected by what they do in those territories. But the main task, as we can see, was to initiate authorization from the Russian Federation Council in order to use Russian military abroad. This is very worrying, and we are very helpful, very thankful to all our international friends for sanctions that are imposed on Russia. But the best sanction for Russia would be strong, economically developed Ukraine, because this is the worst nightmare of them.
Sergiy, Ukraine is often referred to as Europe's breadbasket. It's obviously a very major exporter of wheat, corn, barley and rye. How serious would an invasion have to get deep? How deeply would it have to penetrate Ukraine for exports of those goods to be in some way disrupted?
We do not think about that scenario yet. Also, we are thinking about the strength of our military. Our military is fully ready to protect the country, to protect economic flows within the country and our export supplies. So I do hope and we all hope here. You can see, again, there is no fear, there is no panic in Ukraine, and we want to make sure that no international trade or economic development of Ukraine will be affected. But once again, we need sanctions and we need support for Ukraine inside of Ukraine and from outside of Ukraine.
Sergey, great pleasure speaking to you this morning, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.